Well, thanks everybody for coming for the annual Board of Directors meeting. It's been a great year. There's been a lot accomplished. I know we'll be talking about a lot of that stuff as we go forward. I think we had a great turnout at the Evergreen Everblue. And it's really just been a fabulous year, and I'm happy to enjoyed working with everybody. So I want to welcome everybody. And then we'll move right into it because it's going to be a long meeting. So Patrick, how about we do the 2025 year in review?
I'm the new director here at the Land Trust. Welcome everybody. I started in May. So most of what we're going to be talking about for this year is what we kicked off during our stewardship season, which normally starts in the spring. I'm actually not from Central New York. I moved here 4 years ago. So one of the first things I tried to do when I started was to get out to all the preserves and try to meet as many of our members as I can. To get a sense, for me, it's important to know both the history of the organization and then also looking towards the future, what all of our members are hoping to see us do. So I'm just giving a short presentation at the meeting this year. We're going to be looking at a couple key themes. So looking at our partners, our members, the trails and stewardship work that we've been doing, and then our research partnerships, and then planning for next year. So as we started going out to the preserves this season and doing our monitoring reports, which we're required to do, I started flying the drone. So I'm just sharing a couple of the preserves that I think are truly beautiful. We do have two classes of nature preserves. Some are open to the public. They have trails. They're free and open. Others are non-public, and they're either sensitive habitats with unique ecologies, or they're areas where we want to be doing research. This first one, Carpenter Pond in Pompey, is one of the non-public preserves. The Polymons Preserve, which is on Limestone Creek in Cazenovia, that is currently not open to the public, but we will be building trails there. We're really excited to open it up to people. It actually straddles the border with Madison County and Onondaga County. So it's our first preserve that we're doing in Madison County. We're very excited about that. And then these next three are all open to the public. You can go whenever you'd like. Ripley Hill and Spafford on Skinny Atlas Lake, which is actually a joint project with the Finger Lakes Land Trust to try to build longer trail systems for people in the Finger Lakes. South Meadows in Tully, which is probably one of my favorite preserves. It's the first one that my wife and I went to and discovered when we moved here 4 years ago. We're excited to be building a bridge there next year and opening up more public access from the town park. And then, of course, many of you know Pleasant Valley Preserve in Onondaga. It's absolutely beautiful this time of year. If you get a chance to get out, please do. There also will be Christmas trees for sale there this season. So if you get a chance to go there, you can support our stewardship work by buying a tree. And so now I just want to go through our partners. We are a small organization. Partnerships is the key to our success. It's really important that we uphold all of our existing partnerships and strengthen them and help each other grow. So a couple of our partners here, this first slide, these are our friends groups. So Bernie Schneider from the Friends of Woodchuck Hill up in the top right was just in our offices today. Let us know that they've been tracking their volunteer hours. They donated 1,000 hours of volunteer time this year in Woodchuck Hill. Really done a great job keeping it open. They're here twice a week. We're very excited for them to be continuing to partner with us. And then at the bottom, you'll see the Friends of Pleasant Valley. They've been meeting monthly at the bridge at Pleasant Valley. They've been doing a lot of trail building work along with our summer stewards and also helping us with some beaver control issues, which I'll get into in a couple minutes, and helping us spend down a large fish and wildlife grant that we received from the federal government, which we're working to spend down for next year, making sure we have universal access trails, a bird blind that we'll be building there, and just continuing to make it an open and inviting space for members of the public to enjoy. Another partner I really want to highlight this year is Ducks Unlimited. We've been working with them on several preserves. They are a national organization, but they have a very strong team here based in Liverpool. So we're very grateful to the work they do, restoring properties, creating bird habitat. The pair of birds on the left, those are trumpeter swans. So this preserve up in Oswego, Gardner Road, is now open to the public. You can visit it. If you're lucky, you'll get to see the birds that are there. And we're looking forward to working with DU on a couple of other properties in the coming years as well. Some more to talk about with that soon. Another partner we've been doing a lot of work with is SUNY ESF and the Healthy Water Solutions, which is jointly held by SUNY ESF and Clarkson University. So we were working with Professor Aaron Ninakawa and his team to conduct 280 water samples in a single day across central New York. They're going to be testing these and then presenting them at the Healthy Water Solutions Summit next spring at ESF. I encourage everybody to go. It's open to the public. They've got good food. It's a good time. And they'll also be at the State Fair. And they invited us to the State Fair this year, which you can see in the pictures. We had a good time overall. And also partnered with Cornell Extension. So Madison County, they did our tractor safety training for us this year. This is another activity that we want to do every year in April. So volunteers and members that would like to get trained on safe use of the equipment can come out. You'll get certified. You'll get a Cornell degree. It was great that we had people come out this year and looking forward to keep working with them. Another partner that we've been working with for many years is the Skaneateles Lake Association. We partner with them on invasive controls and also regional planning along the watershed. In this case, we attended the big feat that Rachel DeWitt pulled off, where she swam the entire length of Skaneateles Lake, the end-to-end swim. This brought national recognition to Central New York, and we're really excited for the Lake Association to be getting that recognition they deserve, and also just getting folks in our communities excited about the type of work that we do. And then finally, these are all of the partners that we have worked with since I started in May. It's a lot. I'm not going to go through everybody, but you can see here we have corporate sponsors, we have other regional land trusts and associations, we have several universities, we have a lot of funders, the Central New York Community Foundation, local businesses that organize fundraisers for us, NPR, we did some advertising with them this summer. So we're very fortunate with all these partners here that they are wanting to work with us and that we have these opportunities to keep building out our work. And I do want to give a special thank you to our corporate sponsors who helped us, as Andy Ramsgard mentioned at the beginning, pull off a really successful Evergreen Everblue fundraiser event. Sam and Carol Nappy, as well as CNS Foundation, Cayuga Tree Service, Wild Birds Unlimited, Bowers CPAs and Advisors, and Whole Mental Wellness. Together, we raised over $35,000, which was more than double our goal. So we were really excited for that. And thank you, everybody, especially the Nappies, for believing in us. So now moving on to talk about our members. We have over 650 members from across Central New York. That number continues to grow. Our members include donors as well as volunteers and people who do both. So they're helping us on the trails with trail clearing, removing trees when there's blockages. There's also folks who are coming out to work days, and then people donating photography like that beautiful swan picture in the middle. And I want to give a special recognition to the folks who helped us organize our summer social event. This was held at our Woodchuck Hill headquarters. Thank you to Andrea Kennedy Photography, who came and provided this great snapshot for us. Also, thank you to Amy Huber for the impromptu harp lesson, which was unexpected but very welcome. So we're trying to find more ways to bring people together at our preserves. And I mentioned photography. We do have people who are donating photos to us. In this case, Frank Vales from Hewlett Hill is one of our volunteer photographers. You will see his photos on our website going forward and in our brochures. Frank also attended our tractor safety training, so I wanted to give special recognition to Frank for his work, not just as a volunteer photographer, but also getting his hands dirty and helping us preserve and open up some of the trails at Pleasant Valley. We also organized several volunteer work days this summer to get people out on the trails and meeting each other. Next year, we're looking to make this a monthly event. So we're going to be providing refreshments at those events and possibly looking at having people head to local breweries or cider houses afterwards. The goal for us is we want to keep this fun and engaging, but also getting the work that we need to do to improve our stewardship at our preserves. So moving on to our trails and our stewardship work, we've got a lot of them. They require a lot of work to maintain them. In this case, this is our volunteer steward, Nancy Bronstein, at our old fly marsh, doing a walkthrough and documenting some of the improvements there that we want to make over the next year. As of last week, we are up to 18 preserves with public trails. The newest one is Perkins Woods. Their kiosk just went in. This is the Perkins family here at the soft launch of the preserve. Thank you to Jeff Perkins for all the work you've been doing, and also Dave Perkins, who just joined our board, for making this project happen. It is a difficult hike. It's an old ski mountain, but I encourage folks to get out there and check it out. We're excited to get more people out there going forward. We also have 2 more preserves we're going to be opening up to the public next year, one in Onondaga County and one in Oswego County. But this year is really all about improving our existing trails, getting our tractor back up and running. This is Jeff Perkins mowing the trails at our Woodchuck Hill Preserve, which has both field trails and forested trails. Pleasant Valley similarly also has field trails. You can see this one was designed to be in the shape of a bird. And they also have forested trails in the back. And maintaining trails also means dealing with issues like beavers. So we had a pair of juvenile beavers that flooded our access road this year at Pleasant Valley, and the Friends of Pleasant Valley group were very involved in coordinating a response. So we were able to remove the activity, the damage, the dams and the blockages. And then also we went out and toured some other beaver deceiver setups that have been successfully used across central New York. If you look at the top right, that scary looking photo, that is just a juvenile beaver at night trying to replace the mud that we had removed the day before. So we'll be doing more work with this going forward at Pleasant Valley and a couple of other preserves. And then a couple of new ones here. So South Meadows on the bottom right. We got our tractor back up and running, which I mentioned. We still need to schedule some tractor days this fall, so keep an eye out for that. We'll be heading out to the properties that have fields now that the birds have finished nesting and the migrations are winding down. It's safe for us to mow without causing too much harm. And then finally, our big success story of the year. We've started building a community forest to protect the drinking water for the city of Syracuse. This is right overlooking Skaneateles Lake. We planted 1,500 trees, all native species. We had 80 volunteers come out over the spring. And a big thank you to Steve Schwab on our board, our volunteer who coordinated and planned all of the days. And really, we had a great success rate with the survival of the trees. And we're looking forward to next year doubling the effort and planting 3,500 native trees and bringing together almost 200 volunteers is what we're hoping for. So there's going to take a lot of coordination with our partner groups. Devin Dunbar on our team, our new development manager, will be coordinating. So please, if you're interested in participating in planting a tree to help the city of Syracuse drinking water, reach out to Devin or myself. And we look forward to doing this again in the spring. And it's a 144-acre former farm, so there's a lot of potential to keep planting shrubs and habitat as we continue to expand this community forest. We're really excited about that one. Moving on to research. So I mentioned at the top that we've been supporting research partnerships. We talked about the water quality project that's ongoing. We do have other research projects that we're supporting. One is looking at forest gardens. So learning how to propagate spring ephemerals and other sensitive native species at some of our unique areas where there are remnant forests that were never cleared for farming. So those are really unique places to be doing that type of research. So we've been supporting the grant applications and being written in as a community partner. We're also supporting research up at Silver Lake. The Fen at Silver Lake is one of our non-public preserves. It has a very sensitive ecology, but that makes it perfect for research. So we're really looking forward to keep building out these partnerships. If you know of a researcher who is interested in doing field work at one of our preserves, please have them reach out to us. And finally, moving into planning, this is probably what I talk about the most. We've been spending a lot of staff time on planning as well as time at the board level and in all of our committees. We're really looking forward to next year and what we can do together. So in this case, we have at our Woodchuck Hill property where we just moved into our forever home last year, we also have a barn in the back of the property that used to be a really important community space. And our goal is over time to be renovating that space, reimagining it, and reopening it to the public as a community space. So here we are bringing our partners from the Central New York Community Foundation to tour the barn. The Friends of Woodchuck Hill have also been helping us remove material from there. And stay tuned for more updates on how you can get involved with that project going forward. I mentioned our partners at the beginning. We're very excited to have been working with the Nature Conservancy to help advise us on some of our acquisitions planning work. A thank you to Olivia Green from the Nature Conservancy, who's been advising us, connecting us with her staff and team, and then sharing the work that they've been doing in the Finger Lakes on watershed conservation and restoration work. So one of the projects they're helping us out with right now is mapping Skinny Atlas Lake for priority parcels, since we do currently have state funds to continue acquiring more land for water quality improvement in Skinny Atlas Lake. We have about $3 million we can still spend next year. So there's a lot of potential there for us to keep building out this work. Regional planning at the regional level is also a really important topic for us. We joined the advisory committee for the Oneida Lake Watershed 9-element plan. So that's been kicking off now. We're also involved in the Otisco Lake and Skinny Atlas Lake plans. These are all at the watershed level, but they involve municipal partners, county partners, nonprofits like ours, and several volunteer and community groups. So it's a great opportunity for us to emphasize the use of conservation as a planning tool, particularly with all of the new changes in the development and growth of Central New York, projects like Micron coming in. We feel that regional planning is going to be a really important part of what we do as a land trust. And I'm very grateful that I joined a land trust where we have several planners and architects on the board who already believe in the importance of this. So we have a lot of opportunity to keep building out the work we've been doing. And finally, this month we kicked off our fall with an apple cider open house. This is our Sow and Grow event. We had about 50 people, members and neighbors, come into our Woodchuck Hill headquarters. They enjoyed some donuts. They helped us brainstorm ideas for what they'd like us to see or like us to do next year. And then after the event, we worked with a graduate student from the Maxwell School at Syracuse University to put all of this into a virtual whiteboard. So what you're seeing here, this is actually open to the public now. We're keeping it open through this Friday. So depending on when you're watching this, you might have missed the deadline, but if you are looking at this, you have a chance to look through it. You can zoom into any part of the whiteboard. You can read all the post-its. You can either add your own, or if you like something, you can put a little heart over to it. And then the next steps for us, we'll be working with Maxwell to work all of this into reports out to each of our committees. And in the next couple of months, working that into a budget for next year. The goal is we're getting everybody's ideas now, and we're going to see how much we can do next year with your support. Our region, again, it's changing quite quickly, but there's a ton of opportunity to do land conservation work, especially for an organization that takes a watershed approach like we do. Water quality is really important in Central New York. There's a tremendous amount of projects we can do, and we're really excited next year for events, especially as we grow our members and continue to do some of our work on acquisitions and research. So speaking of fundraising and events, I want to hand it over to our auditor to kick off our report. But for now, thank you for tuning in, and we're looking forward to continue working with everybody.
All right. Thank you very much, Patrick, for the introduction. For those who don't know me, I'm Travis Smith. I'm the partner on the job. I've been kind of working with Land Trust for probably a good chunk of my at least last 15 years or so, and so forth. And with me tonight is Kendra Williams. She kind of did a lot of the more of the interactive working with the staff and pulling the audit together. So she'll be doing part of the presentation. Before we get started, again, another very good, successful year. It's always nice to see, Patrick starts with some of the pictures and stuff like that. And then I get the boring numbers to present thereafter. So we'll kind of, sorry, no cool pictures and stuff like that. Andy, you might have to bring your dog back in a little bit, keep everybody awake. So we'll do the best that we can. Before we get started, I just want to give major kudos to Jan and Maggie. Without them, This audit would not be possible. We're working. I know Jan was also working on getting the reaccreditation done as well, so she was stretched a little bit getting that all done. So very much appreciative of that information. Gathering the various aspects of the information and so forth, and so forth. So with that, I'm going to share my screen to go over the drafts that we sent out earlier. And then Kendra is going to kick it off by going over the letters.
Can you share it? Okay.
And okay. How does that look for everybody?
Good.
Okay. All right, Kendra.
Okay. So we have 2 letters to go over with you all tonight. The first one, this is our internal control letter. It is a letter we are required to present and review. If we note a deficiency while doing the audit, we are required to report it. This year, there was no internal control deficiencies, no material weaknesses. So we have a clean letter, which is the same as last year. And I'd like to note in paragraph 3 that that's kind of the gist of the letter where Travis is pointing that we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control and no material weaknesses. So that is good news. So clean letter here. And then we have our next letter, and this is our required communication with the board. And this just goes over the different aspects that, from our audit, starting with the qualitative aspects of accounting practices, which means we did not have any new accounting policies implemented this year for the audit. The next page goes over that our sensitive estimates in the financial statements was our estimate of depreciation, which is, for example, like a new roof or a new driveway being put in, how long the new property will last for, and our allocation of functional expenses, which is like, for example, the different salaries that get allocated to management and fundraising. Going forward, we did not encounter any difficulties while performing the audit. Just good news. We did not have any corrected or uncorrected misstatements that we found. We additionally did not have any disagreements with management. At the conclusion of this meeting, once the audit is finalized and approved by the board, we will issue a management representation letter. And on our final page here, to our knowledge, management did not consult with any other independent accountants, and we did not encounter any other findings or issues during the audit. So, good letter, good news.
All right.
And that sums up those. So I will turn it back over to Travis to go over the financial statements with you all.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Kendra. And again, we're a small crowd here. I love education. So if anybody wants to interrupt, or Jan, Patrick, Maggie, Lauren, if there's anything you want to highlight more information on or have further discussion on, by all means, feel free to jump in. As Kendra mentioned, there's definitely, there was no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. So what that means is that the information you're getting throughout the year is solid to make the board's decisions on that information. As far as adjustments go, I'm going to present these numbers. You'll see some small differences. Depreciation was updated. Also, some of during the year, some of your grants, you'll expense some of the capital costs to kind of track them for grant purposes. And then when we come in to do the audit, we'll have to capitalize those because those are considered by kind of like long-term improvements and so forth. So a great example would be this year under the U.S. Wildlife grant that Patrick mentioned earlier, there was the driveway or the parking lot that was put in at Pleasant Valley. And so then that was expensed during the year, but then when it came time to work on the audit, we had to move that up and capitalize that over its estimated useful life. The second page and third page in to our audit report is our auditor's report. There is a qualified opinion And basically the reason why it's a qualified opinion is because the value of the property that was acquired prior to April 2011, we could not get the exact value or fair market purchase price or fair market value of that land. It's just through the records and so forth, that were just not kept. So we could not regenerate that time. But everything since that date and time has been recorded in accordance with GAAP. Other than that, there's no other issues or other things that would not make this in accordance with GAAP. Moving on to the statement of financial position or balance sheet. Here we have so here you have your total assets, 11.9 million. That's up about 1.3 million over the previous year. Your cash continues to increase, going from 478,000 to 831,000. Really, the cash is really generating from your positive bottom line. As we'll talk about, and then Patrick has mentioned, you've had some really successful grants, and some of those grants have reimbursed you actually this year for property purchased in prior years. And so a lot of that's bringing cash to your bottom line. And all this money also, so it was about $1 million. And then about $500,000 was moved down into investments. And that is to, as CDs to help, better, investors give you a little bit of return on those excess funds and be able to use for your purpose there. Kind of moving down the line here, you'll see property and equipment. That increased about $500,000 from 9.4 to about just under 9.9 million. And the big difference changes there are going to be relating to the land that was donated from the Mons estate that Patrick showed a picture of earlier. That was about $340,000. And then Pleasant Valley had about $168,000 improvements to the parking lot and also building out of the trails. Total liabilities are down significantly from $700,000 to about $100,000. And really, the big change will be in this refundable advances line. And what happens here is this was money that came from the WQIP Vicus grant. The New York State actually paid the money in advance, and then it was not earned until it was actually fully spent until in the next year. So that was the spend out of those funds. Your net assets, total net assets last year was just under 10 million, and now you're up over about $11.8 million. And that's about a $1.9 million increase. So again, a very strong year for that. Any questions at all? Okay. The next page is your statement of activities, or maybe in your for-profit world income statement. If you scroll down to the bottom, third line up, in that third column there, you're going to see your change in net assets. It's very consistent with the previous year. So 1.9 million the year before, almost 1.9 million again this year. So again, 2 strong years of back-to-back income. Kind of moving up, and I'm going to focus on kind of these two at the last two columns to kind of compare those. In-kind revenues, that went down about 700,000 to about 330,000. And that's just really due to donations of land. Last year, there was 5 properties donated to your organization. This year, there was only the 1. Here's where you have your big change is your government grant income. Last year was about 951,000. This year, it nearly doubled to 1.8 million. And this was going back to those WQIP grants. New York State approved reimbursement for purchase of a couple of properties beforehand. Last year, it was in process before New York State would sign off on it. This year, they did sign off. So that was nice generating income for the organization. Contributions, you'll see that is down a little bit from 382,000 to just under 200,000. That decrease is due to last year, Ducks Unlimited gave you a $130,000 endowment pledge. And so that did not repeat in the current year. There was also $100,000 from the Land Trust Alliance, who was going to give you a 2-year grant. And that also did not repeat in the current year. The remaining items are fairly consistent with the previous year. No really big changes there. Expenses we'll talk about a little bit more in detail on the statement of functional expenses. But overall, you can see the expenses are down almost about 100, maybe about $92,000. And again, we'll talk more in the next page. You'll see too your management in general, some not-for-profits, depending how they're structured and so forth, they always look at that as like an indicator of how the organization's operating. Is it the best use of the funds, and so forth. And you can see going from year over year, I did the calculation, your percentage was about 20% in the previous year, and now it's down to about 18%. And so I know definitely in the normal range. I always feel smaller not-for-profits, they always struggle with this percentage. So it's a little bit higher in those because they don't have the wide variety of programming to kind of cover the basic costs. You have to pay for bookkeeping services. You have to pay for, the executive director, Patrick, he wears many hats, but he's got to have that administrative time as well. So again, that's just, so that's normal for an organization of your size. So. Okay. The next page shows last year's statement of activities. If you would like to kind of compare it to last year's in more detail. The next page I wanted to touch base on is the statement of functional expenses. So it breaks down those expenses by program services, which is kind of, that's the purpose of your organization, is what you do. Management general, that's the cost, like just operating the entity, the organization, and fundraising, where it's the cost of raising the money. And really kind of looking at some of the changes year over year. You'll see salaries and payroll taxes that went down from 306,000 to 271,000. During the years, you're aware there was a turnover in the executive director position and the head of stewardship. But there was a new fund development person that was hired during the year. So those were the big changes there. Advertising, that was kind of new this year. It was outsourcing for the marketing and the social media services. So that was new. Property stewardship, you'll see that went down from 110,000 to 67,000. Last year, if you recall, on with the cottage over Woodchuck Hill was torn down, so that cost was in there last year, and that did not repeat. Kind of other big changes, you'll see rent expense. As Patrick mentioned, moving over to Woodchuck Hill became your forever home, so you're no longer paying rent to another organization. Acquisition cost, that had a large decrease from 37,000 to 0. And really that lot to do with the timing. When you have costs incurred when you're vetting properties for acquisition or for purchasing and things like that. So that could just that's just timing of the purchasing of those events. And that's kind of the big changes. You will see depreciation did go up a little bit from 60,000 to 74,000. And that's because of Woodchuck Hill's renovations. Those are extensive the last year. And being implemented kind of towards the end of the year. It was the first full year of those additions. So any questions at all?
I do have a question. So our properties went up, but our property taxes went down.
Sometimes what happens, Lauren, with the property taxes is and I can't recall off the top of my head, but sometimes when you buy the property, you can't get it on the property tax rolls into the following year.
Right.
So there could be like a delay in that. I know sometimes there's also been, I can't recall if it was this past year, or prior year or the year before. I know there's been times where sometimes if you don't do all the filings with the respective counties, that they may actually kick back into your, making you pay taxes on your property taxes. They make you like file something every single year. And I believe there was one year where that got missed.
Right.
Which one? Oh, I don't know that I missed any, but it might have been the timing.
Because that's a pretty big jump, 13,000 or
Yeah.
12,000.
Yeah. And some of that too might have been, when you purchase the properties, Lauren, in the previous year, there was that timing when you've had to true up the sale price as well.
Right.
So there could have been some of that as well.
Which means we should see it go back up really.
Right. It should be, even though you're acquiring more properties, it should pretty much stay approximately there. Okay. Statement of cash flow, you can see it basically it's just taking your net incomes and adjusting it for a cash basis. So, from a $1.8 million of profit this year down to about $1 million on a cash basis. And really that difference is relating to the use of those refundable advances we talked about on the balance sheet. And it's also adjusting for the non-cash contributions of land. That cash you can see as you generate from operations, and it was used to really purchase those investments and that property and equipment. The notes of the financials overall are pretty consistent with the previous year. And just want to kind of highlight a couple of the keynotes on page 14. It highlights kind of what we talked about with the opinion, why there's the departure from generally accepted accounting principles. So that's stated right there. Page 15 has the liquidity footnote. And what this purpose of this footnote is try to get the users the ability to see how much financial assets the organization has available to use. And so we look at things such as your cash, your pledges, your investments, and so forth. And then we have to deduct those that are restricted by either internally, by your internal board designation, or by donors. There's donors who have given you money and said, here's so much money, but you have to use it for a particular purpose. And then that comes up with your assets of financial assets available for use for the next year. If you compare that to your general expenses, just to kind of give you a ballpark, you've got about 2 years to between 2.5 years of cash on hand. I'm not saying don't stop fundraising and don't do any for the next 2.5 years, but it's nice to have a little bit of a cushion in your operations to consider what direction you want to take the organization in and so forth. There's that. The next page talks about your pledges and gives the breakdown between what's collected in the next year and the next couple of years. The conditional grants. So as Patrick mentioned, you've got the $3 million still outstanding to purchase land on Skinny Atlas. You've also secured a couple other grants as well that you have not fully spent. And so there's about $7 million outstanding on those grants in total. And again, you can't recognize those until you meet certain requirements within the grants. The next few pages talk about your investments, and really the big change in your investments will be your certificates of deposit that you purchased near year end. Next page is very consistent. Property and equipment, you can see the big change will be in your land and land improvements this year. The organization does have a line of credit and can use it if need be. The next note I think is very useful. It's a net assets with donor restrictions. So it gives you a nice table to break down to show what money you have available for use that's restricted by a purpose. So the vast majority is in your millennial account, which is restricted for the purchase of new properties only. There's several donors who've given money just for maintenance for specific properties. There's the future endowed funds. So as the pledges are collected from Ducks Unlimited, that will decrease. And then you do have a little bit of activity on your endowment. So far, $10,000 has actually physically come in the door, and your earnings so far year to date is about $760,000. So what happens with an endowment is, and this continues on to the next few pages about the endowment fund, is those funds, they come in, they're revested, and only those earnings can be spent. And you as a board get to decide what would be a good spending percentage. Some boards will look at the market from year to year. The goal is to spend less than what you're earning, so you always have that little bit of a cushion, so that in, say, a down year in the market, you would still be able to reach in and pull some funds out to help with your stewardship and so forth. And endowment on page 24 just gives a quick breakdown of the activity of the endowment fund this year. And then note 13 gives a non-financial contributions. As you can see, your typically largest donation consists of land. Concentration, in years past, it was heavily, you had a couple key donors as your revenue started to diversify and so forth. And also relates to the timing of some of those donations for land. It's becoming more diversified. And that's kind of the key items of the financials. Are there any questions or anything anyone wants to add anything to?
Hey, Travis, it's Andy Obernesser. Just one quick question. You were talking about the value of land purchased or donated prior to 2011 and being unable to verify appraised value for those properties. I assume that somehow the value of those properties is still accounted for in the total value of our land assets, kind of top line stuff here. Um, but can you talk about the kind of just distinguish between the value of those properties that you can verify versus those that you can't, and whether or not this is all counted there?
Correct, Andy. So you're right. So we do have a value. So what they did is they were properties that were prior to April 2011 were stated at insured or tax assessed values. So that was kind of how the value of the land was created, and so forth. And so that value that was assigned to it, what is included in I'm just going to your property equipment footnote. And is included within that, this top line number here. As far as the breakdown, I do not have a breakdown exactly how much the split is, like how much of it is prior to and how much is after to that. I could look that up for you and get back to you if I send it off to Patrick.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, this might just be a kind of a footnote. You've already explained the difference, so
Okay. Yeah, and
I'm
it's
good.
okay. Yeah, and it's just something I know we've talked in past about, is it something, could you go back and re-dig up, property records and go back? And I frankly, I don't know if it really even be that much of a benefit.
Yeah,
To say, you might put in, all these hours into this. And I think, I think anyone who could, has a basic understanding of the financial statements probably would not feel it'd be any really difference to your organization.
yeah.
So,
Understood. Thanks.
yep. Okay. All right. With that, the last document on my agenda to present is the 990. There was a full version that was sent out to the board. In the essence of time, what I did is I just cut it down to a couple of the key pages. And if there was any pages someone wanted me to go over, I'd be happy to pull them up and go over them. The page one is, I always like to call it like the snapshot of the 990. It gives you various informations about the size of the board, number of volunteers, and gives you some quick summary of financial information such as revenues, expenses, and your total assets. Moving on to page 2 of the 990, I call this kind of like the marketing page. This is where you get a chance to sell yourself, explain what your missions are. So this information has been updated, but right now, as of April 30th, you're up to over 4,260 acres of preserved land in 56 separate natural areas within 22 municipalities. So again, just gives you a sense to kind of sell how expansive you are and how much you're protecting. I'd skip next few pages and kind of go over to their governance, management, and disclosures section. And really here, the IRS is kind of asking you point blank, are you following best practices? Do you have a whistleblower policy or a document retention policy and so forth? So again, it's nice. You have all these are answered yes, you're doing everything that you should be. The next page is the compensation of officers, directors, and trustees. So anyone who served as an officer or as a board member during the fiscal year would be listed, and so forth. And if somebody left kind of prior to the term, then they would be just listed as a former board member, and so forth. So we have those, everyone's listed there. The next few pages, pages 9, 10, and 11, it's really taking those numbers I just went over with the audit financial statements and transferring to the IRS's format for the statement of revenue, statement of functional expenses, and the balance sheet. Okay. One thing, if those who have been on the board for a long time, one of the things that there was discussions with a while ago was the public support percentage. And what that does is it comes up, it compares your revenues to your investment earnings. And the IRS wants it to be above 33 1/3%. Some years you've been under that percentage because certain large donations, especially when you get one or two very large donations, can't be counted towards this test. With the advent of your government grants and so forth, you can see it's now over about 60%. So you are now all set, and there's no issues there to report. On the page 2, this is page 2 of the Schedule D. It gives you a brief history of your endowment fund and a breakdown of your land and buildings and equipment. And then the next page is, I was kind of want to go over briefly, is Schedule G. So when you have your events, you have to turn around and present those, show those to the IRS, give a breakdown of how much of your gross receipts are and your income and so forth. So again, as Patrick mentioned, you made $35,000 on Evergreen, Everblue. Just recently, your last year's event, it grossed about $11,000 in total. So again, there was definitely, you can see the growth in your events there. The last page is the Schedule O. I always think Schedule O is overflow. So it's where, comments that don't fit on everything else. So it talks about, one of the questions asked, does the board review the 990? And so here we discuss and disclose how the 990 is reviewed by the board prior to filing. It discusses your conflict of interest policy, how you evaluate the compensation for the executive director, and so forth. So again, a lot of just kind of policies written out and so forth. Any questions on the 990?
No, it all seems very good, Patrick. Or Travis, sorry.
That's
I'll
okay.
take credit for it too.
Okay, all right.
Even though it all happened before I got hired.
I was going to say, we told Patrick you got to pass this year, but next year, watch out. It's full on. So.
Yeah. All right,
I'm
Jan,
glad
you
we're
can
finally
edit that.
over that 33% threshold. You always had the footnote in there for so many years.
Yes. No, I thought again, most, now that you're over it, it's just, we're great, not a big deal, but it's just one of those, just kind of point out to everybody. So again, it's great working with the organization, Maggie and Jan. I know next year there'll be some internal control processes that are changing and so forth, but we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you.
Great. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Travis.
We have to move on to item 6, which is the state of nominees, or the slate of nominees for the board of directors. So this year, for the terms of 2025 through 2028, we have 3 nominees, Holly Grant, Dave Perkins, and Steve Schwab. So I would like somebody, if they so choose, to make a motion to approve those appointments.
I'll move that slate.
I'll second. This is Maggie.
Thank you.
Maggie's seconding. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none. Any abstentions? Hearing none. The motion is passed. Welcome aboard for another 3 years.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, yes. All right, so I'm going to hand it back to Patrick, not Travis.
Thank you, Andy. And thank you to the board too for, giving me this chance to join the organization. It is a really exciting time to be working for any land trust, and especially here in Central New York, where we're seeing so many changes happening quite quickly. So again, for those who are members or volunteers who are watching this, which we're recording, reach out to us. We'd love to have you involved next year. We are going to have a lot of events, monthly events, lots of volunteer stewardship opportunities, our big tree planting in Skinny Atlas next spring. So stay tuned, and thank you for coming to our annual meeting.
All right. Thank you, Patrick. Before we close this annual meeting, are there any questions? All right, hearing none, I'm going to ask for a motion to close the annual meeting of 2025.
So moved.
All right, so motion's made, seconded.
Second, Rick.
All right, made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion's passed. Great, thank you all. And
See you next year, Travis.
Yep.
Thanks, Travis.